All right. New Jersey Lost and Found Part 2 on how to solder your bulbs to your contact and your micromotor. We did these 3 micromotors on Part 2. Now we're going to connect the light. Let me get my tweezers. Oh, whoops. We're going to get our lights cut properly to the proper length, and our positive wire cut to the proper length. And first, what I'm going to do is to take my bulbs that I sell on eBay. These are very vibrant bulbs. People will vouch for them. They run bright on Gen 1s and 2s. I even used them in a side tab, and they worked as well in a side tab chassis. But I mostly use these in Gen 2s and sometimes in Gen 1s. But I use the I actually used to use the wheat bulbs that look like this, but it's a hit or miss when you purchase these bulbs right here. It's a hit or miss if they are bright enough. I ordered a batch of 200 and they weren't bright at all, and they were pretty much garbage. I ordered another time and they were very bright, and I got those grain of wheat bulbs from this company right here, Eve model, right here. You look them up on eBay. Eve model, and they come in a package of 50, I believe, or it doesn't say it here. I think it's a package of 50. But for today, we're going to take this bulb for now, and we're going. I first like to blacken this white part out right here with a permanent marker, just because it looks better. And then after I do that, I'm going to bend the bulb with my pliers and take it from there. So let me just color this in. I have my bulbs pre-cut. I'm just doing one as an example to show you guys the proper cut length and how to cut it and how to bend it. But I have a bag of pre-cut bulbs in here that I cut ahead of time. So I'm just ready. I like to do everything, on like an assembly line fashion. So what you're going to do to your bulb is you take these flat precision pliers and you take your bulb right to the bottom of it, like so, and you squeeze, you apply pressure, and you tip it up and tip it down and lay it flat, and it turns into an L shape. And after I do that, I always like to check them, because sometimes you could pull the wires away from the bulb itself, and they don't work after you make an L shape into them. So let's just double check to make sure that this bulb works, and then we'll go ahead and cut it. Yep, bulb works. And what I do is I have a template that I use, tweezers, that I use this template to cut all my bulbs. And I use the same template over and over again. But in this picture right here, shows you the correct dimensions on how to measure and cut your light bulb and your positive wire right here. So hopefully this helps, and you can see everything in here. You can pause it and write down the information if you want to, but those are the correct measurements. And so let's go ahead and use that template that I just had. Where did it go? Right here. This black template. I line it up to my light that needs to be cut. And I first cut the black negative wire, and then I cut the positive wire afterwards. I save these wires for my positive wires. You could also use 30 gauge silicone wire that comes in this box, this company, and here's the 30 gauge wire from Bentico, and here is the listing on eBay that you can look for on it, and it's about $8. I use this wire mostly with my all black whole grain wheat bulbs. I don't use this wire on these particular, when I use these particular lights that I saw on eBay. But this wire is very flexible and easy to work with and easy to twist. I like it a lot and recommend it. Let's go ahead and trim off the tips of the wire about 1/16 of an inch. So the wire looks like this. I'm trying to get it focused. You want that much room on your wire. So I'm gonna go into my bag of tricks and break out. I got 3 motors. I got 1 light here, another light there. So I need 1 more light and 2 more positive wires, which are, let me see here, I should have this out in front of me. Your positive wire that goes from the negative contact to the micromotor's positive brass contact is 1 inch and 5/8. I cut a bunch of them already here beforehand so I can make the video shorter. So I'm going to just take 2 of these guys and place them there. Got my motor. This black wire is garbage. I already cleaned 2 contacts. We're doing 3 Gen 2 contacts, but the same concept goes for Gen 1 contact. It's just a wider contact. But I'm going to clean my contact with my Dremel tool. And if you have solder on your contact, you could use something like this to pinch them down, like so. Let me just do it for you. Pinch like so. Put it in your vice grip and it has solder on it, and you can put the soldering iron on it and turn this Dremel tool on that has this brush connected to it, and it will, well, as soon as the solder heats up, it will flick it away and it will clean the solder right off the contact for you. And these brushes I use for all my brass of my Stompers. These 53802 Dremel brushes, which is also right here. I printed everything out ahead of time. Here's the brushes right here. You get a 2-pack. It's the 14th of January 2025, and Amazon sold out of them, and it's like $16 for a set of 2. Usually it's like only $8. So if you want to buy these, I would wait a couple weeks until they get them back in stock. So let's go ahead and do some soldering. First I like to do is take my flux paste and put it in a syringe. I use this flux right here. You can also get that on Amazon, which is right here. And I heat it up a little bit, and I put it into this syringe right here, so I can squeeze it out, and a little bit comes out, just enough that I'm not overdoing it. And I use those on my contacts because I want my soldering when I'm done to look like puddles and not like drip sandcastles. And when it comes to soldering, less is more. You don't need a lot of solder to solder 230 gauge wires to a thin contact. You need very little solder. And the solder that I use is by this company right here, which I did a printout again on this. And this is great stuff. It's very thin, has rosin in it, and you barely need flux, but I like to use the flux on my contact. Like I mentioned before, I like to see puddles when I'm done soldering and not a globby mess of solder. So what I'm going to do here is clean that contact that I was telling you about earlier, because you want to clean them first. I do the whole contact, even in the back. I like it to look nice and shiny and brand new. And I dropped that one. It's gonna take me. Oh, I found it. I think I found it. Yep, I found it. Good. It usually takes me 5 minutes to find something when I drop it on the floor. So here's the contact, the Gen 2 contact. I'm gonna place it on my razor blade because I have a cutting mat on my drafting table, and if I just solder right onto the mat, it will melt into the cutting mat. So I use a razor blade to solder on. And this stuff could be a little tricky getting out. There we go. Put a little flux on here. Then you take your short end of your positive wire, which is the red one, of your light, and you drop it down on the right side of the contact. You want the contact facing you, facing down, just like this, and you want to work on your right hand side. So when you install the micromotor, the wires are sticking the correct way. And then you take your positive wire and you lay it right on top of the other wire. You take your solder, soldering gun, and you want to press and hold this. I should be using a fan, but if I turn it on, it might make too much noise. Let me see if I can turn it on. You should use a fan when you're using solder and flux. So I did my joint. It looks great. Now I need to clean it with alcohol, the residue off, with a fine toothbrush, which is right here. And you can buy a 2-pack like this. And I use one for Armor All, which is like my best friend when it comes to stompers, to clean the chassis, the bodies, the tires, anything. The fine teeth on these toothbrushes are great to clean your stompers with Armor All. And I also use one to get the residue off the flux with alcohol. That's my soldering joint. right there. See how there's a puddle and that like a globby mess? That's what you're trying to go for. At least for me, that's what I'm trying to go for. Let's do contact number 2. Again, work from your right side when contact is facing down. And you want to kind of make an X with your wires on top of your contact. Take your soldering gun, heat it up, and apply solder to it. And I use this to clean my tip. I don't use a sponge anymore. I like using this better to clean my tips of my soldering gun. What I usually do is I do 10 to 20 of these at a time on each contact, whether it's a Gen 1 or a Gen 2. And then that step's already taken care of. I just have to solder onto a micromotor, which makes it easier. But this, I wanted to show you each step of the way, and I wanted to do 3 of them since I started out with the first video doing 3 rebuilt micromotors. Again, from the right side, put a little too much flux on this one, but it doesn't matter, it comes off. It's not the end of the world. Toxic. Definitely need the fan on. I almost choked before. And I'm using alcohol to clean the flux from the contacts and the wires, to clean the residue off. And here is a little better job cleaning it up. There we go. Much better. There we go. You see that? I think you can. There we go. So I got my 1, 2, 3 wires connected to my contacts. Now we got to connect them to the micromotors themselves. I just want to make sure I went over all these sheets with you guys. I went over the wiring. I went over the correct size solder, the rosin paste, flux. Yesterday we went over the micromotor. First, what we're going to do is we're going to solder onto this positive contact with the red wire, the positive wire going from your negative contact to this. After we're done doing that, we're going to solder the negative wire going from your light to the bottom right side of your cage right here. Semis, you do it in the middle with a longer length wire, but for Gen 1s and 2s, you solder it right here on the corner. I use these DeWalt vice grips to hold my micromotors for me, so it's less hands that I need. Just cleaning my razor blade off. And so I have it like this. And again, when you work with this micromotor, you want it facing you just like I have it here, and you want to work from the right side, not the left side, the right side. You want to, you want to connect your wire poking out and coming in this way. Sorry. The wire coming in from this direction out. You don't want the wire going from this direction out, because when you install it, the wire will be on the opposite side and want to pop out of the other side of the chassis. You want it to pop out on the battery side. So I'm going to connect my wire to the motor's positive contact from the right side. So if I place it on the desk, I'm going to install it Give me a second, I want to make sure I'm telling you this correctly. No, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Cross that off. You want the wire coming from this direction, the left side of the motor, not the right side. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. You want the wire coming from this tip where the positive contact is, coming out this way. So when it's down facing you, you're connecting it from the left side. So when you fit it into your chassis, here's your chassis, here's your motor. When you stick it in there, it'll be popping out to the correct side towards the battery and not the back wall. So it's the left side. I apologize. My bad. That's why I took a double take. And I usually just stick these little wires in the little hole. No flux is needed for this. This is enough flux inside the solder itself. And you just want to do a little dab of solder. Like so. There it is. So it's facing you. This is facing you, right? Yeah, it's facing you. Downward, sorry, downward. It's facing you. So it's popping out to the left when it's facing this way. Let's do another one. So I put it in my little DeWalt jig, tighten it up, take my pre-wired light with my contacts, install it on the left side of the motor when it's facing up towards me with the contact facing upward, and I slide it in the hole. See? When it's facing down onto the desk, that's the direction that you want it. Let's do our last one. And see, I'm not using a lot of solder. Using very little solder. And I clean my tip off every time in this when I'm done soldering. There we go. Now let's take the micromotor and solder this black negative wire from your light to the bottom right of your micromotor right there. I like to use flux paste for this because I'm OCD, anal, and I like it to be, like I said before, puddles and not sandcastles, drip sandcastles. Let's do the other one. I'll clean the flux off. I'll clean the flux off when I'm done. After all that, I should have showed you from the beginning. That's how much solder I lost. I only used probably 4 inches, not even. Maybe 3 inches of solder. And this thickness is very thin solder. Now let's wash off the paste. And what I like to do at the end, which I prefer doing, is taking the wires and twisting it. It gives it a finished look, and that's how they technically came from the factory. They had maybe like 2 twists in them, but I like to do 3 twists. So when you're done, they look like this. 1, 2, 3. And just for shits and giggles, let's throw one in there. I don't have any gears in there, but this is a Gen 2 chassis. It should slide right in, which it does. And the contact should bend perfectly into the corner. There you go. And you just have to fasten your screw down. And then you install your light. Like that. See? I don't have it fastened down with the screw, but you get the idea. So this video is about how to solder a rebuilt micromotor, or even an original micromotor, to a Gen 2 contact. And it works the same way as a Gen 1 contact. Like I said before, it's just wider. Same cut lengths and same type of wiring, unless you want to use the wheat bulbs with the 30 gauge wire that I was telling you about before. It's up to you guys. So I truly hope you enjoyed this video, and if I get comments of wanting other videos of restoring Stompers, I'll go ahead and do so. I have a PTO chassis rebuilt video, but that needs to be edited. I was going to upload that one, but I don't know. We'll see where this takes me, I guess. Where it takes me. So, enjoy yourselves, guys, and from New Jersey Lost and Found, Stomper on. Later, guys.